Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Good to see you. This is kind of a impromptu video. I have been thinking about doing something like this, and I was just actually about to leave. And I said, well, screw it. I should probably go ahead and do that now, and then it can be uploading. So when you see this, I'll be gone. But that's so dramatic. By the time you see this, I'll be gone. No, so what I wanted to do is kind of just tell you guys a story, just kind of a lesson that I learned a couple of years ago and see how it might relate to some of our current situation. For those of you that don't know, I previously was really hardcore into like primitive survival skills and stuff. I wanted to guide and do like, primitive instruction and survival skills as like my job, like to do those kinds of courses and stuff. I was in a really bad car wreck, and afterwards I was, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I stumbled upon this thing called bushcraft, which is really cool, which is just kind of the art of, I've heard it described as survival, not survival, but how do you thrive in a limited, just primitive natural setting. If you ever watch the show Alone, a lot of people who do good on that are people who know a lot about bushcraft. Anyway, so I just did what I always do, and I'm interested in something. I taught myself things. I watched a lot of videos, read books, articles, and then I would just go and do it. So I'd learn, how to make weave baskets out of grass, and how do I make fire with sticks, and how do I make, big fish traps out of like willow reeds and all those kinds of things. Anyway, and one of my first big projects, my first forays into that, was I wanted to build a shelter, a primitive shelter that I could go and like camp in year round, that was all natural. So I did that. I found this place. It was about an hour from where we lived. It was next to a lake. It's a really beautiful area. And there was like a lake, and then it had all these ridges, like really tall, stark ridges around it. And on the top of one of those ridges, I started building the shelter. And so I documented as I went. This was in the end of 2015, beginning 2016. And so I have 4 short videos here, and I'll just kind of walk you through the progression of what happened there and some of the lessons I learned along the way, and then we'll see how that might relate to some of the stuff. So, and I want to make it fast because I got to get going here, but I did want to show you guys this. So here was the first video whenever I found my location, and I went and I cut a bunch of trees down, and I built the framework for my shelter that I was building. So here's what that looked like. Let me turn the volume up here.
Okay, so this is after day 1 of the camp. I'm going to keep it short. I got my drying rack, got my socks on it, and then my gloves are drying. I didn't do that last night. My socks are still sweaty, and my gloves are still sweaty, and so drying rack. I got some lake water, gonna boil. I went through a gallon of water today, so that was like all my fresh water, which is fine, but I mean, it kind of sucks. Anyway, just some sumac I found down by the lake. I'm going to make some tea out of it later. There's my old gallon. Got the thing on it to filter the water through. I got my wood pile here. So this is kind of the structure as it stands right now. I'm like literally halfway done with getting all the support beams. I have 30 here even, and I want 60. But I mean, you can picture this with 60, it'd be, I mean, there'd be very little gaps, and that's what you want. All my stuff's hanging up. I'm in my boxers right now. Whoops. Felt nice. Anyway, so this is the inside. It's actually pretty roomy, as you can see. So I've got, like, my sleeping mat's all out here, and picked a bunch of grass to lay underneath it so it didn't get dirty. But I intend eventually to build a bed here. Not during this trip. And then this will be where the debris hut's going to come off of. There's a bunch of vines I got that I'll wrap through this thing once it's done. So yeah, so that's day 1. doing okay. It's not, progress is slow. It's a lot of work getting all these trees and processing them down, and I had to finish clearing off this site today. This was like, when I first got here, there was a lot of trees all through here. But I liked the location, and I think once the leaves are dead, there'll be a pretty good view of the valley and of the lake actually in that direction, and then there's a valley that direction. So, okay, that's it. That's after day one. Well, I guess technically yesterday was day one. Today was the first full day. So, okay, peace.
All right, so that was my first, whenever I got the framework, and so the lesson there was to just pick a spot and get to work. Whenever I got dropped off, what's funny is, I wasn't really that familiar with the location. I'd only scouted it out maybe once or twice. And how I got there, I basically like went straight up this really steep incline, and it was miserable. I was exhausted. And then I get to the top, and later on I find that there's a really nice, easy walking path that I could have taken to get up there. But the first lesson was, if you have a plan and you have something you want to do and you have like a good framework, then you pick your spot and then you get to it, and establish, what I didn't do was start with the roof. I started with the skeleton of it. I started with the basics. And I knew what I wanted to do, and I had an order of progression. So, and I got to work. It was exhausting doing all that. And that was just, what you saw there was just a full day of me going down and getting water and cutting these trees and processing these trees. But all of that hard work eventually manifested in to a pretty good frame of a shelter. And so that's what part 2 is here.
Alright guys, I'm about to change stuff, but I thought I'd give you a tour of my campsite before I did. This is where you hike up from, and then you can see there's kind of a view of stuff. This used to be a cedar tree. It's not so much anymore. I'll show you what happened. And then you come this way.
That was that walking trail I missed.
Alright, and here's my shelter. This is the back end. And when I said I'm about to change some stuff, I'm about to cover it in leaves. But I just wanted to show what it looks like first. So here's the back end of it. There's some what's left of some of the cedar. And I made this path around the other side to the front area. There's some lake water, my saws and stuff. I moved the fire pit. It was there. I moved it over here. You can kind of lean on this. And I don't know, it's just a little bit more spacious now. Anyway, okay, so this is the front of it. It's kind of tall. Then I have a door here, which I'll open, and I'll show you the inside. All right, give me one sec. All right, and then I just set it there, but that's what the door looks like. All right, and then here's the doorway. You come inside, and immediately on your left, I got some storage area here, and then I've got some wood kindling for a fire. Then I have my logs stacked up here. I don't know if you can see it or not. I don't know how quality this camera is. Then there's space for someone to sleep over here. I'll come inside. That's where a buddy of mine slept whenever we camped on Sunday. And then this is my debris bed. It's insanely comfortable. So it's got a frame underneath of it that I made. I guess see a hedge apple there, and there helps keep spiders away. But and then I put cedar boughs, and then some straw, and then just layers of leaves, and you lay down on it and pack it down, and you put some more on there, and goodness, it's very comfortable. So anyway, but I mean, you're sleeping here. You got your fire going right there. It was real toasty in here. And you can see all these cracks. It was still slightly drafty, but it was still really warm. So that's why I'm going to cover this in a bunch of leaf litter. I got my trash bag over here, and rake. I brought a rake, yes. And I'm just going to dump bags of leaves. 'Cause there's just, it's that time of year. It's everywhere. And there's especially a clearing about, I don't know, maybe 30 yards that way. This just got a ton of it. So anyway, so that's it. So this is my shelter, and it's pretty awesome, to be honest with you. I love the view. I love the spot. And one reason I cleared this area out, because I'd like to, be able to bring. So this will sleep. 2 people could sleep there, and there's enough room over on the other side to set up a tent. So I'd like to bring people up here, and so they could experience what I experienced up here. It's pretty great. So anyway, yeah, that's it. It's been a lot of work, and I'm not done yet, but I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like before I cover it in leaves, because I think it looks pretty cool right now. I'll make a video whenever I get done cover it with leaves also, but okay, all right, back to work. So yeah.
So that was whenever my original plan was to just do the cedars, and I realized I had all these gaps, and so I thought I was done. And actually, one of the things that I didn't include, there's a video where prior or between that one and this one, whenever I was in the process of putting leaves on it, we had this crazy wind and hailstorm that happened in the area. And I mean, it was like 70, 80 mile per hour winds. And so I went up there, and there was a decent amount of damage that I had to repair, and it undid a bunch of my work, but I didn't include that, me cataloging that. But what I learned from that one is I put a lot of work into it, and I had this picture of what I thought it would look like when it was done. And it was that, but then I realized that there is more improvements to be made. And actually the process of getting all the leaves in the trash bags and dumping them on top probably took the same amount of time as everything up until that point. So I had my essentials. I just had this, I wanted to build a cedar boughs, debris hut, and I did vines, and I wove everything together, but I could tell that, I could probably leave it like this, but there is also a way that I could tangibly improve it. So I didn't want to settle. And so that's what I did, is I recruited a friend, and then we dumped leaves on it. We made a ladder out of that cedar tree, what was left of it, that you saw at the beginning of that last one. Is I basically cut it down, and then we had like a, 10, 12 foot ladder of this, this cedar, because how the limb stubs. And we used that to dump bags of leaves on top of it. But it was probably a week of just raking leaves in the forest, which is a pretty funny exercise and insanity. But this is what the finished product was. And so what happened here was, this is just me kind of enjoying the fruits of it. But I'll show you, this is the end.
All right, so this is about the completed structure as it's gonna get. So in the previous video, you saw it was all cedars. And I said I was gonna change stuff and add some leaves. So that's what we did. So
it was a buddy of mine.
Sam Akers and I spent a long time covering this. There's about a total of just under, probably around 70 bags of leaves. And so we covered it with leaves. There's about 2 feet of leaves. And then we put some boughs on the outside to kind of hold them in place. So the whole thing is significantly bigger.
So it's got about maybe 2 feet of leaves on the outside, and then what was left of these tree boughs we put on top of it to kind of keep the leaves in place.
As you can see,
they're basically
it's like doubled in size. It looks kind of ghetto now, but that's fine. So then Brandon and I finished that up today, and the last place that was left was this one gap here. We finished that up, so I'll show you the inside. So, all right, let's get in here. So it's real dark, as you can see, because there's there's no gaps anymore. There's no place for light to come through. So we got the fire going here, and then here's my, I got the bed over here. Boy, you can't even see it because of how dark it is in here. So there's the bed, and then over here is Brandon's bivvy. That's where he's gonna sleep. But yeah, so as you can tell, I'm pointing it up. There's straight up. There's the top. So there's that hole up there for the smoke to go out, but those are the walls. It's pure black. So anyway, it's pretty much winterized at this point. It's there's still a little bit of water dripping through from where, everything was covered in ice. So the smoke's kind of melting some of that. But other than that, that's about it. So anyway, that's the update from the wiki app. So we're gonna build a drying rack over the fire now for our gloves and stuff, especially as winter sets in and everything's wet. So all right, that's it. Peace.
So that was kind of me enjoying the fruits of my labor. And one of the things that, I kind of mentioned in the second video was, I had a vision for what I was going to do with that spot, and I did it. I brought people up there, and, we would just connect with nature and just get away from, cell phone and internet and everything, and just kind of go and relax and get away from the craziness. And I did that. I had the opportunity to do that for several months. It was a lot of fun. Throughout the winter and the fall and the spring. And I did a lot of really good camping up there. The lake froze over, and a friend of mine and I, we went out there and just walked across the lake, and I had a lot of good times there. But this is the last video. One day in the spring, I think it was, late spring, early summer. I think it was late spring. I got a phone call from a conservation agent in the area, and they got my number because I had left a piece of paper in a plastic bag in there that was like, hey, if you find this, cool. If you want to camp here, that's great. All I ask is you replace any firewood that you use. And I left my phone number, said, if you have any questions, give me a call. And I would randomly get text messages from kids. They're like, this is the coolest thing. But the conservation agent called me, and first they thought that I was running like a survival school up there, which wasn't the case. But they said that I got ticketed for littering. I had a couple of those tickets for the rake that I left up there that I would use to regularly upkeep. And then I had another little tool that I used that was kind of similar as like a gardening tool that I kept in the shelter for like tending to the fire. And since those are not naturally occurring objects, they ticketed me for littering up there. And then they said they were going to burn it down. And so this was the last video I took before leaving, before they burned it down. We were about to move anyway. And I was going to leave that place to some friends that were, still in the area for them to use to take people up and kind of do like, little retreats and stuff. So we'll watch this really fast, and then I'll kind of give you my final lesson here.
Making the trek to the shelter one last time. Flowers are starting to bloom. Tried to find people to come with me today, but no one could come. I guess it makes sense. I started this by myself. Should end it by myself. Here we are. was the ladder Sam and I used to cover this in leaves. I can't tell if someone had a fire out here or not.
I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. It took me a second to get the phone down.
The door was all messed up from where someone had been up here, and it's all busted. I don't know if you can tell or not, but it's coming apart. I had a log that was hollowed out that had a straw in it. It was pretty cool. It was, imagine like this, and it was all hollow, and I had like a lid and everything. I had a bunch of straw in it for kindling and to keep it dry and keep it contained in there, but it's gone. I think someone burned it because the straw is all strewn out on the floor in there. I think someone burned it. Yeah, I had a vision for what this place was gonna be whenever I left. I wanted it to be a place for people to come, people I knew. They could come and rest and relax and get away, enjoy nature. But that's not going to happen. They're going to burn it down, is what the guy told me. I can imagine someone complaining about this. When I first started working on it, I found a beer can that was pretty new, about 100 yards that way, when I was cutting down trees. I didn't really think anything of it, but I guess that tells me the kind of people that make their way up here. People that don't care, people that are selfish, don't respect the land. Let's take a look inside. You know, the funny thing is like, it still smells great. I can smell the cedar and I can smell the smoke. And look, I mean, there's a little bit of gaps that need some filling in, but for the most part, I mean, that light is from the hole that's supposed to be there. A little bit of gap right there, but everything's the way it's supposed to be. You can see all the straw strewn out where people just didn't care. And I had a lot more firewood reserves here, so I think someone's been up here and started a fire. Drying rack is still sturdy. Guess they didn't use any of the kindling or anything. If I can get. Yep. bed is still super comfortable. Thought about staying in here one last time, but I can't do it. The last time I stayed here was a lot of fun. I don't want my last memory of staying here to be sad. It's a hard thing when you put a lot of work and time and sweat into something just to have it to be needlessly destroyed because of the ignorance of others. Anyway, thanks to everyone that gave me encouragement while I was doing this. Thanks to, your support. I'm going to do it again, somewhere safer. Yeah, so it won't be the last of this type of thing for me. It won't be the last time. So, thanks for your support. Thanks for watching. Anyway, have a good day, guys.
So the main thing from all that why I found that to be a little bit relevant is I put a lot of work and effort, as you can see, and as I mentioned, into this location and into this shelter. And, I think my heart was in the right place. The ideas were good. What I built was quality. Made it through the winter, survived, big storms, and just with a little bit of upkeep, it would have been just fine. And I had plans for, kind of helping develop that spot a little bit more before leaving. But I didn't put enough thought or consideration into the location of where I was doing that. So my energy and effort and everything was focused on the what and not necessarily the where. And the where was subject to the whims of other people. So the conservation agent, whenever I said there, I can't imagine someone complaining about this. He said that someone complained because they asked if they could build a shelter like that, and they were told they couldn't. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure someone is going to go and put all the work that I put into that. Like, okay, man, I'm sure they would spend one day and then be like, screw this sucks. Because it was a lot of man hours that went into that. But whenever I said I'm going to do this somewhere safer, there's that picture in the Bible where Jesus talks about, building your house on the rock and not on the sand. And, even if the house is really sturdy, if you build it on the sand, then the whole thing could come crumbling down. And I was thinking about all of that in reference to, just the way this election and the kind of everything being up in the air still as of right now has impacted all of us. I know we're all feeling it. The uncertainty, and, there's some anxiety, there's just a lot. And it makes me think of that video that I made last fall about why I don't talk about Donald Trump. And the reason that I gave was all of the issues that we deal with predate him, and they will exist when he's gone. And the point is that politics and, having all these top down changes, it's important. Who the president is important, but it's not like the main thing, because one election can just undo all of it. If your hope is in executive orders and stuff, get a different president in there and they just reverse all the executive orders. And so the focus that I mentioned in the video I made last fall, and what I'm thinking now, and what I kind of learned through that process, is it's good to work, it's good to learn, it's good to put your ideas into practice. But if you focus them in a into a location or into a realm that is ultimately, subject to the whims and the ignorance and the malice, or or just the difference of opinions of others, um, then you're probably focusing it in the wrong place. I guess my point is that our hope isn't in politics, guys. Um, I know that this is not a new revelation for us. The politics is downstream from culture kind of thing. But it's good to be reminded of that. Even if Trump, were to win or would get 4 more years, that doesn't change the underlying cultural stuff. There's a lot of people on the left right now saying, well, we have to contend with the fact that 70 million people voted for Donald Trump. Well, even if the results get overturned, those of us who voted for him have to contend with the fact that it looks like, as of right now, about the same or more, 75-ish million voted for Joe Biden. And so we have to contend with that. And there's reasons for that. And we have to figure out what the blind spots are, and what are the main cultural things that we have to address? What are the ways in which we have to focus on our own locuses of influence, and changing the way people think about these things and addressing the real issues. Dishonest media existed before Trump and it'll exist after. So we have to address media disinformation. We have to address establishment politicians that are in lockstep with those media, the legacy media complex, I guess. We have to address the way that big tech is increasingly censoring people that they disagree with. I saw that the Unsafe Spaces YouTube channel's been suspended like twice in the last week or so. There's a lot of crap happening there. These are all issues that we have to deal with, and our hope isn't in politics, because if there aren't significant amount of pressure socially, on the ground, incentivizing that stuff, then it's not going to be happening. It's not going to be happening at Twitter or Google. The reason why Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo and whoever else, or Steve Inskeep or Terry Gross or whoever in the media can be dishonest, some of them more noticeably than others, is because there's people that are buying it, people that are eating it up, that want to be lied to. They want to have their biases confirmed. And so we have to confront the fact that no matter who is president, we have a large issue, to say the least. That's a very opaque term I just put out there, but we've got some serious cultural issues, is what I'm saying. Serious problems with our society and the way that we treat each other, and the way that we talk about things, and our inability to agree to disagree, and so on and so forth. And so those are the things that really matter, and just like me putting all this work and effort and everything into a place that, just at the drop of a hat was completely, torn away from me. They burned it down and they fined me. I had to go and pick up my rake and a gardening implement from the evidence locker. I had to go to the police station, and it was they had it logged in evidence. Like, seriously, that's ridiculous. So where I focused those efforts, even if the philosophy was good, even if the ideas were good, even if the framework was good, and even if the finished product was good, I put it in a place. I focused it into a place that wasn't prudent, because I was completely subject to forces completely outside my control. And so we have to find ways to take our ideas, take our message, and take the changes we want to see happen, and focus them in a place that is as much in our control as possible. And, start there, because we can't control the political stuff up here. All of that is downstream from what's going on down here. So I guess that's my main point, is that we were all in this together, fighting these cultural wars before this, and we're going to be in it no matter what happens with the election results. So anyway, all right, super windy. I'm not excited. I'm about to go head up into the mountains and do a solo overnight camp, just to kind of go clear my head. So that wind, actually, it'll probably be nice at night because in the mountains it is so freaking quiet. I'm not used to it being so quiet at night when you're camping. It's like creepy because back in Missouri, it's, you know, you hear like tree frogs and crickets and owls and, you know, squirrels running around and all that kind of stuff. And you just kind of get used to the noise. It's good. It's like a little lullaby. But in the mountains, it's just like dead silent. It's really freaking creepy. So the wind might be nice. That's it, guys. I've got some stuff planned for this upcoming week. Just trying to get past the election because I'm realizing that I'm in a holding pattern that doesn't matter. You know, the stuff that I was talking about with, you know, far left orthodoxy and emotional abuse and media dishonesty and people, you know, becoming detached from anything principled, you know, that it doesn't matter who's in the White House for me to be addressing those things and for us to be addressing them together. So, all right, that's it. If this kind of thing you're into, please like, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. That's at My Mundane Mind. At my locals, join my locals community. People over there are freaking awesome, like the coolest. I really, really love my locals community. And which reminds me, oh my gosh, Jen, I'm going to reply to your question before I go. Yeah, so people have good conversations and ask questions, and so that's good. So that's returntoreason.locals.com, YouTube, Return to Reason, Medium, ThinkSpot, all of that stuff, Return to Reason. That is it. I hope you guys all have a refreshing weekend and are well rested for the week to come. Because I was talking to a friend the other day, and I said we're not in an epilogue, we're in a prologue. So anyway, just something to consider. We got a long ways to go, no matter what happens. All right, that's it. Peace.